Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys for Saturday, February the 24th. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, joined by Dana Lane and Alex B. Smith. Andrew not with us today, but he sent along his plays and opinions for this card, and I'll be able to recite those as the show goes on. Got a big Saturday card, as we always do. Looking forward to breaking it down. Let's start with the top of the card. Early start, afternoon game. Note the start time, 2:05 Eastern. Philadelphia, Ottawa. Philadelphia minus 135, minus 140 road chalk. Total 5.5 in this game. It's pretty much that way right across the board. Of course, we know with the Ottawa Senators what they're all about right now, a team that's not playing great hockey, a team that's struggling, a team that's trading off assets prior to the Monday deadline. We've already seen Dion Phaneuf shipped out. Yesterday, we see Derek Brassard shipped out, although it took a while for that trade to finally get finalized. Some moving pieces, actually. Vegas Golden Knights had to get involved in that three-way deal to finally get it completed, but eventually it did. Derek Brassard on his way out of the Ottawa Senators, and coming in is Ian Cole from the Pittsburgh Penguins, so and a draft pick. So a couple of moving parts going back and forth. The bottom line is, when it comes to handicapping this game, where's the mindset of Ottawa? I don't know. They're not playing good hockey. We talked about for weeks how miserable this team is defensively, and it's also impacted the play of Craig Anderson and Mike Condon, the two goalies who really have not been able to put on a sharp 60-minute performance, because really it's a bunch of Donies playing in front of them as nightly for this Ottawa team. So when you look at it, this team's not got anything that I want to consider backing right now. Philadelphia, actually, to me, I thought this price opened more than reasonable. It opened minus 130. We're finally seeing the Flyers get bet up a little bit, and I'm going to jump on that side. I mean, I think it's still a more than reasonable price. Philadelphia is playing good. Nice win, hard-fought, gritty. Tight checking type of game the other night against Columbus. Found a way to win 2-1. And Peter Mrazek's Flyers debut, he was solid in between the pipes for Philadelphia in that hockey game. Really, it's as simple as it's the better team. It's a team with a lot more to play for. Team that's in good current form against a team that, these players, where's their heads at for this hockey game, Ottawa? You have some guys wondering if they'll even be there in a couple of days. So give me Philadelphia minus 135. I got no problem laying that price with the Flyers here. On the road in this situation. Ottawa, like I said, you got to wonder where they're at, not only playing poorly on the ice, but in terms of their mentality going into these games just this close to the deadline. Some of these guys still get traded. Mike Hoffman's still being rumored. Carlson's rumors are still floating around that maybe, not for sure, but maybe he would get dealt before the deadline. So that's a problem for me. So I'll go ahead with the Flyers here. Just ask the better team to win the game. Laying minus 135, even on the road, doesn't seem too bad of a price for me in this matchup. Andrew's also involved in this game. Andrew sent along that he's on the Flyers in this game, as well as the under 5.5 for Andrew McGinnis in this early start matchup between the Flyers and Senators. And I don't trust Ottawa's defense in terms of an under, but hey, you've got Mrazek and the Flyers on the other side. Maybe they can do their part to keep Ottawa from hitting the scoreboard. So Andrew's on the Flyers and the under. Dana Lane's also on this game, Flyers and Senators here on the Saturday card. Dana, good morning to you. And what do you see happening here in this early game?
Yeah, good morning, man. Hey, look, going back to the Erik Karlsson thing, I mean, there were some rumblings about Vegas as well, dealing with Karlsson, which is not a typical McPhee move. I don't see that happening. So that kind of surfaces its head. I don't think that we're going to actually see that. Listen, this is a guy, and I like Karlsson a lot. I mean, obviously he's fantastic last season, but he's got a quarter of an ankle, and he just since the injury, he really has not been the same player. And I realize he plays on a horrible team, but I think he's almost like a minus 25 or 30 right now, plus minus, and it's just I don't think he's at a point in his career right now where that's a good fit for Vegas. I think the Reeves deal is a good fit. I think it's a fantastic deal. Another genius job by George McPhee, getting a fourth rounder and Reeves and basically having to give up nothing. And I think that's one of the things that, Vegas has been missing. They're playing too much like an East Coast team and need to start playing like a West Coast team and then worry about the East Coast when they get to the finals. As far as this game is concerned tonight, I mean, this is a huge advantage for the Flyers, especially on the special teams, where they find success almost 22% of the time. And they're all up against an Ottawa Senators team team that's one of the worst penalty kills in the league. So there's definitely a special team advantage. The good thing for the Senators is that they're not one of the most highly penalized teams in the league, so they don't find themselves having to kill a lot of power plays. But I do anticipate, which is really kind of the first step of handicapping for me, is I look at power play units and where my advantage is coming from. And, certainly that's with the Flyers, and certainly there's an advantage 5-on-5 as well. But if you look at Patrick and Voracek and Drew and Gostisbehere, I mean, there's no – you'd be hard pressed to find another power play unit that's as hot as those guys. So I think they have a real advantage there. They also get a chance to tee up Craig Anderson, who, again, plays on a horrible team, but allowed 4 goals to Tampa, 5 to Nashville, 3 to the Rangers. The 3 to the Rangers, I think, is more glaring than the 4 or 5 to Tampa Bay or Nashville. And on the other end, you have Peter Mrazek has got to be sky high confidence-wise. So I love the fact that I get a confident goaltender on the other end against a team that's just not as good. And it is strange, though. Historically, this has not been a series that's been kind to Philadelphia. In fact, the Flyers are just 9-24-5 in our last 38 meetings. But I think that streak stops tonight. This is a revenge spot for the Flyers. They are the better team moving forward. So we're going to lay the $1.35 with the Flyers against Ottawa.
All right, Flyers as well for Dana. Sign him up on that side as well in this game. It's funny. These two teams played an afternoon game earlier this season. It was in Philadelphia, and Ottawa actually won that game, I believe, in a shootout. So there you go. It goes to show you that even though Alex threw out the stat there, Flyers very good in day games this year. That was one of the day games they were not so good in this year when they played Ottawa, lost in a shootout. So, but this is a totally different situation. Philadelphia now is in that zone right now. We talk about it. Ride Philly when they're hot, fade them when they're cold. They've been very streaky all year, in both directions, the win streak and a losing streak. Right now, they're on the good side of that streak. And again, with Ottawa, you just worry where their head's at right now. Alex B. Smith also has the Flyers and Senators on his Saturday card. Alex, what do you see here?
Well, it's a full house for all of us. I'm right there with you guys on the Flyers. And like I said, I mentioned 7-1-3. In their 11 day games this year, and like I said, one of those shootout losses was the only shootout loss. They had 2 overtime losses, but the one shootout loss came against Ottawa. And this is the time of year where I look at, obviously, with what we do, it means wins and losses, but looking at losses in the overtime and shootout this time of year, especially with a team like Philly, they're just 2 points away from the lead in the Metropolitan Division. That's something that's really key right now. So there are bad losses and good losses this time of year. But that all being aside, this Ottawa team, I looked at a possible depth chart. If everybody that we mentioned just now gets traded from Ottawa, this is basically the Belleville Senators of the AHL going to be going the rest of the way forward. So this team is going to be absolutely decimated. And I don't see where, like I said, there's just no real motivation or energy to kind of move forward. Like I said, these guys are trying to figure out where they're going to be going, if they're going to be part of another team between now and Monday afternoon. And the other guys that are going to be sticking around just kind of looking forward to next year. So it just seems where there's the motivation edge. It's clearly on Philly's side. They're the better team. And this is a decent enough price, even that I'm not one to lay 135 or 140 often, but I'm definitely looking at doing it here with Philadelphia this afternoon.
Exactly, because I think the way you got to look at it is this price in this spot. If Ottawa is this bad, for another couple of weeks, you'd get this same matchup maybe 3-4 weeks down the road at minus 160, 70. You got to look at it that way. I think you're going to start seeing some of these playoff-bound teams on the road against Ottawa maybe laying north of that minus 150 cutoff point that I always like to use. And right now you're not getting that just yet. There's still some smidget of value right now to take teams in these spots on the road against this Ottawa team. And I see that. I think anything below minus 150, when I saw it, I'm like, that's more than enough value still for me to ask the much better team in the much better situation right now to get the job done. And that would be the Philadelphia Flyers. So we got a clean sweep, everyone, on the Flyers in this game. All 3 of us, including Andrew. And Andrew's also liking the under 5.5 in this game. Colorado, Calgary, 53-54. No line yet on this hockey game. Colorado, been a weird first couple of games, I guess you could say, through this Western Canadian swing. Talk about how they fell down big time against Vancouver. 4-1 they trailed in that game, rallied back and won in overtime against the Canucks 5-4. Played another overtime game the other night against Edmonton, but couldn't get the job done 3-2. I can't complain about that. I wish it was a better result. I had Colorado, but Edmonton was the better team that night. They outshot Colorado. They had a big advantage in the first period. Colorado didn't play one of their better games. Edmonton capitalized on their opportunities. Varlamov's a big reason why that game was as close as it was. Oilers taking care of business 3-2 in that hockey game. So we'll see if Colorado can rebound from that against this Calgary Flames team that was in desperate need of a win the other night against Arizona, and they got it. Maybe is that a sign of a breakout for the Flames? They had not been playing good. They had been finding ways to lose. They got their brains bashed in by Vegas early in the week, 7-3, but they responded the way you were kind of hoping they would after that Vegas loss, and they put the boots to the Arizona Coyotes in their last game. Calgary, a very much needed 2 points, considering that their playoff fate hasn't been sealed just yet. They've got a lot of work to do still. They're not guaranteed of anything just yet. So stopping the bleeding, taking care of business against Arizona. And in October, you look at an Arizona win and you say, as a means of getting your season going again, and you look at, are you joking? Are you serious? That's a team that sometimes you compare them that some AHL teams could beat Arizona early in the season. But Arizona's been playing better the last week or two. So Calgary, that's a decent win for them. Get off the schneid, see if they can keep the momentum going here in this game today. It's a tough one for me because Colorado's very almost to the point where I'm done trusting them on the road. I said it before. I mean, Colorado on the road, when I bet on them, they don't win. They really don't. I mean, it's just, that's all there is to it. It's the wash, rinse, repeat. It happened again the other night against Edmonton. So actually the Vancouver game, they did cash in for me, but that was a very rare scenario there. Don't know if I trust them here against Calgary. Calgary got a win. But Calgary at home, we talked about it. This Calgary home record continues to be a disaster for them. They keep trying to talk about how we got to find ways to win and play better at home. It hasn't translated into results on the ice just yet. So I'm going to have to see it from this Calgary team before I go ahead and back them here in this particular spot. So for me, probably not going to be involved one way or the other in this hockey game, but an interesting one to say the least, because you got two teams that need points at this stage of the campaign. Winnipeg, Dallas, 55-56. No line here. We've got, of course, Winnipeg, a second night of back-to-back on the road. Would explain that. Facing this Dallas Stars team. Let's give this Winnipeg team credit. What a win for them last night. 4-0. You go into St. Louis, shut out the Blues. Great win for them. I liked Winnipeg in that spot. They were off the home loss against L.A., and they had a nice, great effort. I mean, great 60-minute. Everybody played well. Defensively, they were good. They got the better goaltending. Jake Allen was a little spotty last night for the Blues. The big guns showed up for the Winnipeg Jets. Patrick Laine with a goal to seal it late in the game. So great performance from this Winnipeg team. And to see where Winnipeg has progressed on the defensive side of the puck from October, from the very first couple games of the season, when the Leafs hung 8 goals on them and they gave up 5, 6 in like 3 straight games to start the season, to see where that Winnipeg team was then and where this Winnipeg team is now defensively in terms of their acumen defensively, it's night and day. I mean, you got to give Paul Maurice credit, coaching staff credit, players credit for buying in, because that was the detriment and downfall to the Winnipeg Jets last year. They had an offense just as good last year, good enough to get them in the playoffs, but their defense was horrendous, and their goaltending was just not consistent enough. This year, their defense is much better, their penalty kills improved, and they're getting key saves at key times from Connor Hellebuck, and it's made all the difference in the world for the Winnipeg Jets. So, I'm reluctant to go against Winnipeg here. I know it's a back-to-back spot, probably won't be on them, but they're playing good. Second night, we'll see who's in net for the Winnipeg Jets. That's something you're going to want to be aware of. Paul Maurice said he was going to gauge the workload of Hellebuck last night and then determine this morning after the morning skate who his goaltender is going to be. So it's a situation where you're going to want to obviously look into that for the Winnipeg side if you're going to be backing them here in this game. Dallas, to me, is still, they finally got off the schneid with a win against L.A. In the last game. But again, they needed a flawless goaltending and defensive performance to get the job done. This offense is still not clicking right now for the Dallas Stars. And that's been a little bit of an issue for them lately. They've been a little bit less consistent. Maybe the LA win on Thursday night gets the Stars going a little bit. We'll see. But I'm not really in love with fading the Winnipeg Jets right now, even though the spot and the scheduling situation is maybe more so on Dallas's side here than it is Winnipeg's side. So it's a game I'm going to stay away from. But again, watch that Winnipeg team. It continues to impress me and play good. And the fact that they're playing complete game now, they've got the better defensive play to go with that offense, which again, they've got all four lines really can score for the Jets, and that's been big for them this season. We've got Tampa Bay, Montreal, 57-58 on the rotation here. Tampa -165, road chalk. The total 6 shaded slightly to the under in this game, -115, pretty much across the board what we're looking at here. Not much to say here. I mean, Tampa Bay is just priced a little too high for me to get involved here, but at the same point in time, what can you say about Montreal? I know they finally won a game, beat the Rangers. Okay, but the Rangers they're in the Ottawa mode right now, where it's just like a free fall for them right now. For the Ottawa Senators, much like it is for the New York Rangers at this point in time. So I don't give Montreal a pat on the back. I don't give them, anything, a pat on the shoulder. Good job for that. They took advantage of a team that's probably even in worse shape than they are. Montreal now's got to play this Tampa team, which we know continues to roll, get the job done on a nightly basis. And they've been taking care of inferior competition. We saw Tampa beat Ottawa pretty handily the other night against the Senators. 4-2 is the final, but 4-3 rather. But 2 late goals from Ottawa made that game closer than it really was. Tampa controlled that game for the most part. So I don't have much on this game. It's 6, and Tampa Bay's been an over machine. I got to say this. Tampa Bay's been cashing one over the total winner after another as of late. But you're going to hold the phone here just a little bit. And I've been on a bunch of these, but, it's 6. It's a Montreal game at 6. Okay, it's a Tampa game at 6, but it's a Montreal game at 6, if you know what I mean. I mean, you still got to hope Montreal can help you out here a little bit offensively to get a game over this total here at 6. I'm not sure they can. We'll see. But this Montreal to me is not a team I'm in any rush to bet over at 6, regardless of who the opponent is. So I'm going to stay off the total in this game. I'm going to stay off the game entirely, but I was looking at the total, but I don't know if Montreal can help me out enough there with it. Dana Lane, this is one of his games, Lightning and Habs. Dana, what are you looking at here?
Well, with Niemi confirmed for Montreal, I mean, you have no other way to look but the over. You're getting even money on that. And, for a guy that's goals against average is almost at 4, save percentage is way under 90%. In fact, you really want your goaltenders to be in that 91.5, 92% range. That's kind of what I'd like to go on. And, certainly a guy that's, 3, 6, and 1. So, Niemi's never had the reputation of being an under goaltender. And this is a Tampa Bay team that could get close to this total, I believe, on their own. And in fact, I don't quote a lot of trends on this, but the trends are overwhelming to the over tonight. And again, in a lot of these don't, they go back a little bit, but, for instance, the over is 12-2 in the Lightning's last 14 games when they're playing on 1 day's rest. Over is 10-1 in the Lightning's last 11 games following a win. The over is 6-0-1 in the Lightning's last 7 road games. And if we remember, guys, that the last time that these teams met up, it was just a 3-goal game of Montreal getting the win, which also is good for our over because, Tampa Bay probably wants to erase that loss. But, there was 83 total shots in that game, and Vasilevsky ended up making 37 saves, and Price ended up making 44 saves. And the pace of that game certainly did not reflect a 3-goal games. Both of these teams, again, we looked at a power play when we're betting totals. That's number one. Actually, I looked at a power play when betting any game because I want to see where my advantage is. Both of these teams, surprisingly, are pretty efficient on the with the extra attacker. We know that Tampa Bay is extremely explosive, but Montreal is also connected on 21 of their chances, or 21% of their chances as well. Neither teams are big penalty teams, so we might not get a lot of opportunities. But I think it's fair to say that you could see at least 2 power play goals, and now we're at that point we're only asking both of these teams to combine for 4 goals, and then certainly at the end there's always the caveat that you have to remember of the empty netter. And I think that at even money at 5 dimes, with the over being 8-1-1 in Tampa's last 10 games. I don't see there's any reason to play anything other but the over in this at even money.
All right, over for Dana Lane. Yeah, I mean it's over or pass for me. It's just a question of can I trust Montreal? Niemi, you're right. Niemi and net. We know Carey Price out indefinitely for the Montreal Canadiens. That doesn't move the needle for me much, because really this is an issue with Montreal in front of Carey Price as much as it was anything Carey Price was doing. That hasn't changed. Montreal's still been a very shaky back line all season long. Nowhere near past editions of this Montreal Canadian defense. Just in terms of their defensive ability, it's gone down. They haven't had Shea Weber for ages, and he's been shut down now as well. So obviously Montreal has not been good in front of their goaltender, as good in front of their goaltender this year, regardless of whether it's been Price or Niemi. And you would think with Niemi in there, that could make things even shakier for Montreal. We'll see. He's actually played very well at times in his brief stint here with Montreal and Niemi, but can it continue? Can it sustain itself long term? I still have my doubts. We've talked about a goalie that, since back when he won the Cup with Chicago years and years ago, that's really the last time you got stellar goaltending out of Niemi. It's been hot and cold, up and down ever since, and that's the problem right now with endorsing Montreal or their games under with Niemi in that. It's what are you going to get night to night in between the pipes? You're never quite sure. So Dana's going over 6. He's breaking his rule. I usually doesn't often make cases to go over a 6. He is here in this game, and it's even money, right? This is not a price.
No, it's not a rule. I always have to clarify with people. It's not a rule. It's just a preference on watching games. Of course, if I think it's games going over the total, of course I would look that way. I just enjoy watching games that I have unders on more than overs.
There you go. That's an interesting way to look at it, because unders drive me nuts in the fact that I'm just every scoring chance or every goal post, I'm like, oh my God, geez, when it's that close and you're holding your chest. I find I'm more relaxed with the over, because I'm looking for something to happen, and it's just I can breathe a little bit. But everybody's got a different way of feeling. But yeah, for me, the unders drive me nuts. It's almost hard to watch. It's like, oh my God, that was so close to going in. What am I going to do here? The unders in hockey can be very scary in that regard, yeah, because every chance your just heart jumps out up in your throat a little bit, and you almost see that it's too hard, too tough to handle, too hard to watch. But over 6 here for Dana, Tampa Bay, and Montreal in this game tonight. Again, the Lightning, as I mentioned in the chat a moment ago, they honestly could hang 5 or 6 goals tonight. All by themselves, which means, you may not have to ask Montreal to do a whole heck of a lot. Chicago, Columbus, 59-60. No line in this game. Chicago, all of a sudden, back-to-back wins for them against Ottawa and San Jose. 3-1 win last night. They really got dominated in the third period. San Jose really made a strong, hard push against the Blackhawks, but give JF Berube credit. They bring him in. And he was excellent in his very first start. He was motivated. Obviously, he gets a rare chance to make an NHL start. He was fired up for it. Gave you everything he had. He had a great performance last night in net for the Blackhawks, taking down San Jose on the second night of back-to-backs. That was for the San Jose Sharks. Now Chicago's feeling it. Second night of back-to-backs here. Chicago taking on this Columbus team tonight. Columbus off the 2-1 loss to Philadelphia. Columbus still banged up without Nick Foligno, without some key cogs. Still having a tough time finding their offense a little bit, this Columbus team as well. Even in the victory they had against New Jersey early in the week, it's not an offense still that's lighting it up big time on the scoreboard right now. That's definitely a little bit of a concern moving forward for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Offensively, they just haven't found anything. So for me, it's not like Chicago's any sort of offensive juggernaut right now either. We'll see where this total comes out, but an under kind of sticks out to me here in this game between Chicago and Columbus. You are getting some good goaltending from Bobrovsky. He's actually been good this week in back-to-back games against Jersey and the Flyers. So I don't know if I trust either offense to give me a 4-3, 5-3 kind of game here tonight between the Hawks and the Jackets. So we'll see where the total comes out. I'm more interested in the total than the side. I'm interested in the under here. See where the number comes out, where the price is, but certainly looking to play the under in this game. Chicago-Columbus. Alex B. Smith, of course, going to give us his thoughts on the Blackhawks, as always, taking on this Columbus team. Alex, what do you think here?
Well, it's interesting. I was on the Sharks. I had a 16 parlay and hit 5 of them, and I needed the Sharks to cash it in, and of course the Hawks win. So I'm not really happy with my Hawks this morning as a result of that. But here they are, like I said, on the second night of back to backs, and they're playing. It's now you had Berube coming in, starting the game last night. So now you got Anton Forsberg going up against his old club. And they mentioned that yesterday in the first intermission, watching the Blackhawks home feed, and they interviewed him, and he said, it'd be nice to get back to an arena he's familiar with, and he's been playing in a pretty good rhythm as of late, for as good as a rhythm as he can. So now, like I said, two teams that are offensively inept as of late, especially this Hawks team. I mean, there's a ton of chances they have some quality shots, better shot chances that I've seen from the Hawks in the last 4 or 5 games than I've seen from them over the last, I'd say, month and a half. And of course, like I said, with this Columbus team, they're just struggling all over the place, and they've lost 5 of their last 6 at home. So I would look to see, I'm sure the Hawks are more likely going to come out here as a slight underdog. I think the Hawks might have a little bit of energy, a little fire in them. Forsberg might want to look to play well against his old team. So I'd be looking at possibly playing the Hawks, and definitely the under. Like I said, these two teams, not a lot of offense. And if Forsberg's playing well, Bobrovsky at least plays average or adequate enough, we see this come around 5.5 or maybe even 6. I think the under would be something worth looking at.
Yeah, definitely. I like that under. And Chicago, a lean there as well for Alex B. Smith in this game. And yeah, I mean, for the Chicago Blackhawks, starting to get higher quality scoring chances, as you say. They're still not finishing left and right, but Nick Schmaltz gets a goal last night, and Anisimov starting to make some things happen a little bit. It is kind of peculiar, though. I mean, Joel Quenneville with the lines. I mean, he's been going up and down everyone on these lines. Yurko's in the lineup. He's even tinkered with Tommy Wingels of all people on the top line. It's been really weird to watch here with Chicago. Tommy Wingels is the top line forward. I mean, I love Coach Q. He's a colorful guy. He's, when
he's
he
all
gets
about
mad at
everything in the blender. It gets ridiculous now. I mean, at this point, they've got nothing to lose. So yeah, just try everything and see what sticks. But I mean, he's so used to doing it, and in games, you can never see the same 4 lines from the first period to the third period in any game anymore now with the Hawks, because that's just what Quenneville does. He gets in there and starts tinkering with things, and sometimes it works out, and more times than not, lately it hasn't.
Yeah, it's like a mad scientist in the experimentation room trying to find out something that's going to work and make him money, or in this case, get him wins on the ice. And it's definitely been a trying time, let's put it that way, for Joel Quenneville to try to get something that gets this Chicago offense rolling. But the one thing, again, about Columbus, and we've seen it this week, they're still giving you a good effort defensively. The goaltending's been strong. So, yeah, I'm definitely interested. Under the total, Chicago-Columbus there. Pittsburgh, Florida, 61-62. No line here. We've got Pittsburgh off a just dominant, put the boots to the type of victory last night over the Carolina Hurricanes, 6-1. I know that was a big bet of Alex B. Smith's, and I had Pittsburgh as well last night in that game. So it was a good result there. We're looking at a situation here now. Pittsburgh's second night of back-to-backs. I understand that. But how do you go against this hockey team right now? I mean, they're absolutely rolling. They're good for 5 goals a night, it seems right now. I'm going to keep this very brief. We know Florida. Give them credit. Florida, 3-2 comeback win against Washington on Thursday night. They had the stirring, emotional speech from Luongo before the game talking about the school shooting down there in the Parkland area there in Florida. Just absolutely, it was good, actually. It was a really well thought of, delivered speech by Roberto Luongo. He made great points on it, hit all the right notes. Give him credit for that. And he played well. You could tell Florida had a little something to give in that hockey game. After a slow start, they got behind Washington 2-1, rallied in the third period, and won at 3-2 late. A win that on a very, I guess you could say, emotional night a little bit for that Florida Panthers team. Certainly for their goaltender, Roberto Luongo, and he probably played with a little bit of an extra charged-up mentality. And really for Luongo in 3 starts since he's been back, the Calgary game, okay, he was a little rusty there. They gave up 3 goals, but Florida won 6-3. Played very well despite a losing effort against Toronto, 1-0. Just got bettered by Freddie Anderson, and no shame in that. And then, of course, he had a nice solid game the other night against Washington. So it's been pretty good for Luongo. Give him credit for that. Give Florida credit for winning that hockey game. But they're still in a spot here where even with Pittsburgh, second night of back-to-backs. Matt Murray was in last night, which means it could be Tristan Jarry tonight in net for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Even with all that said, you won't see me with a Florida Panthers ticket in my pocket tonight. Not even maybe. Pittsburgh's playing too well. finding ways to win. Their offense is lethal right now. If anything, I'll look over the total. We'll see where it comes. I'm sure it's going to be 6 because Pittsburgh's involved. No surprise there if it is. But I will be interested in the over. I'm going to do some more digging into it. I don't like the fact Luongo's really played well, but I don't even think Luongo's going to be able to completely shut down this Pittsburgh team. I mean, you look at it, Gensel, Kessel, Malkin, Kroos, everybody, on this team is in good offensive form right now, is contributing to this team's success. You're even getting Brian Rust, some of the depth forwards, scoring goals for this Pittsburgh Penguins team. So they're in a great zone. They've won 6 in a row. They're peaking at the right time. Yeah, it's Pittsburgh or pass. Also, we'll look over the total in this game. We'll see where the total comes out. This is also on Alex's card. Pittsburgh, Florida for you, Alex. What do you see here?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that Pittsburgh Penguins game last night. 6-1 win over Carolina. And like I said, this is a team that they're rolling on all cylinders right now. And the rich getting richer. They're getting Derek Brassard, coming over from Ottawa. And they showed a stat. The top 4 point scorers in the Eastern Conference playoffs over the last several seasons, all now on the same team. It's Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, and now Derek Brassard. So, you add another solid center to this already, wealth of offense, and riding high at the right time right now. And a Florida team, I know we all talked about it. I think we all were in agreement on Washington in the last time we talked about Washington and Florida. And I didn't really take into consideration the fact of Florida coming home after the tragedy, and a lot of those guys, like I said, like Luongo was a guy who lived in Parkland in that area and had the emotional speech, and everybody in that area, everybody all over the country saw Major League Baseball teams wearing the caps for the high school and so forth. So a lot of people charged and emotionally charged by that. And that's something you didn't take into consideration. Washington played a hell of a game, and Florida fought back and carried around. Like I said, Luongo now 3-0 in his last 3 starts. But I think Pittsburgh here, they've won 8 of the last 10 meetings, and they've earned points in all 10 of those last 10 meetings against Florida. I just don't see where they fall off. They've gone 5-3 also in the second night of back-to-back. So Pittsburgh or nothing here, the way I'm looking at it. And anything around the $1.30, $1.40, some stuff that I'm seeing right now, I'll more likely be jumping back in with Pittsburgh tonight.
All right, there you go. Alex B. Smith looking at the Pittsburgh side. And Pittsburgh was one of those teams that early in the season, second night of back-to-backs, I think they were pretty disastrous in terms of how they played. They've ironed that out a little bit. They've played better lately on the second night of back-to-backs. I remember the Columbus game. Remember that last Sunday following the Toronto game? And they won that game. So there you go. That's an example. Pittsburgh has played a little bit better the last month or so on the second night of back-to-back situations. And again, teams rolling like this, I don't look to fade them, even if they're in a little bit of a negative scheduling spot like this. So, yeah, for me, I would only take Pittsburgh and also would lean over the total. But again, let's see what the goalies are. Let's see where the number comes out with that. We got Islanders Jersey, 63-64 next up. Jersey minus 155. At home, total 6.5 shaded to the under. If you're the New York Islanders, you've got to be damn frustrated. I mean, obviously the Minnesota game was a shit show. It was a debacle defensively for them Monday afternoon in that game. I said it on Twitter. When you give up, when you're bad body and stick positioning in your own zone, when you're turning the puck over left and right, when you're giving up breakaways and odd man rushes all the time, that's basically everything bad fundamentally that you can do as a team defensively. And the Islanders did it against Minnesota on Monday. I thought defensively they played very well against Toronto Thursday night, and yet every little chance Toronto gets ends up in their net. And one of the goals off an Islander player and in. I mean, just bad puck luck. They actually kept Toronto, to the outside, to the periphery a lot in that hockey game. They played better defensively, and what do they get for it? Just another loss. They still find a way to lose. Leafs sneak out of there, and I mean sneak out of there against the Islanders. Not one of their better games, but they win in a shootout 4-3. And despite a better defensive effort, the game still goes over the total. It was 6.5, and it ended up 4-3. I mean, best Islander effort defensively in quite some time, and it's still a 4-3 game goes over. That's been the season for the Islanders. Still can't find ways to win those kind of games. Still going over the total, even at these 6.5s. And I've been scared off of these Islander overs lately because it's 6.5 and it's minus 120 half the time. And yet they're still finding ways to get over the total. The Minnesota game, the Toronto game. So what am I to argue with that now? So again, 6.5 again here with this Islander team. It's no surprise, but again, I've sort of backed off betting the Islanders overs like I did earlier in the season. Because earlier in the season, when I was betting them game in and game out, hand over fist, it was 5.5. It was 6. It was never ever 6.5. And now you're seeing just about every Islander game now. It's 6.5. Pretty much in terms of their total. New Jersey's capable offensively. We know that, especially with a healthy Taylor Hall in there. Makes all the difference in the world for the New Jersey Devils. No question about that. They're a better offensive team with him in there. Steph Noesen has really played well lately for the Devils offensively as well. They're going to be introducing one of their new shiny toys in this hockey game tonight against the Islanders, talking about Michael Grabner, a guy they acquired from the New York Rangers. Michael Grabner's not going to, some people are going to go, oh, yawn a little bit when they get that guy. But not this year. This year, he's had a great season, Michael Grabner. He's been good. He's going to give them a little more depth offensively, and it's a cheap contract. It's not going to crush you from a salary perspective. So nothing wrong with this move by the New Jersey Devils. Every little bit helps. He'll be likely making his Devil debut tonight against this Islander team. Nico Hischier, the number 1 overall pick as well. He's really turned it up lately for the Devils. There's a lot to like with where this team's going right now. Offensively, it's been solid from them. And we'll see if it can continue tonight against this Islanders team. Now, Islanders showed me a better defensive effort the other night, and they still lose 4-3. Makes me wonder if they can fire back here with a good effort. They look totally, shell-shocked, very dejected. Dejected's the word. Dejected after that loss against Toronto because they knew they played a good game. They still didn't get 2 points. So I don't want the Islanders here, that's for sure. But again, we're talking about New Jersey now in a price range that they're not very familiar with, minus 160 in this kind of divisional matchup. Not the value I want with New Jersey. From a totals perspective, it's still over or pass for me with Islander games until further notice, until I see signs that they can get you in a 2-1, 3-1 game, and I still have not seen that routinely as of late. So a lean over, but I think there's better totals spots than this one. Dana Lane has Devils Islanders on his card tonight on his ticket. Dana, what do you see here in this big-time rivalry matchup?
Well, betting totals in the way that I do, I have some other ticks in the game as well when I bet on games, and the lengthy ceremony game. And I know that it sounds ridiculous, but I've noticed you watch this game long enough, and you start to kind of notice things. And of course, today the Devils they're going to retire the jersey of Patrick Elias before the game, and I always feel like these sort of things kind of throw things off a bit. I think that kind of takes the edge off of the home team because they're more into the, giving tribute mode than they are focusing on their opponent. And that doesn't always happen, but it does create kind of a little bit of a soft spot. We've seen it time and time again this year in the NHL when there has been, big time, even, watching Vegas, and it's probably the worst example, but, just watching Vegas early on and all the teams that were giving tribute to Vegas, and, it was, fantastic and moving and warranted, but, it just seemed to take the edge off of the home team, allowing Vegas to really jump on these guys. Now, we later find out that Vegas is a great team, but there's been numerous examples with ceremonies, and I don't understand, honestly, why they don't do these things between periods. I don't know why they have to do it before the game. It seems like it just kind of throws things off. And then you add in another tick and wagering for me with the addition of Michael Grabner, who came over from the Rangers. I love to stay off of teams that just made some fairly high-profile moves, and certainly the acquisition of Grabner changes everything in the Devils lineup, and you have to. This is a team that's had to tiptoe through a bunch of injuries as well. So I think I don't love the bet on teams where there's a bunch of moving parts. And yes, the Islanders are horrific defensively. We know that. I don't even put all the blame on on Halak or Grice. I mean, they give up way too many shots a game. I think both of those goaltenders would be a lot better on a team where they only had to face say 30 to 33 shots a night as opposed to what they're being asked to do now. But going back to Grabner, he's probably going to play in that second line with Zajac and Coleman. And I just think it's going to work in the long run for sure. But Grabner, is a speed guy. So when you add a speed guy, it takes a game or two to get used to that sort of a player on your team, or on your line rather. To me, the Islanders, as bad as they have been offensively or defensively, pretty strong up the middle. They're getting pretty good play from Tavares and Barzal and Brock Nelson. Their numbers have been pretty good in the last 5 to 10 games. Recent form has been good. So we know the Islanders are pretty good offensively. And, I think it's fair to anticipate 3 to 4 goals from the Islanders tonight. Listen, I don't think they're better than the Devils for sure on paper, on a neutral site. But if you're going to give me $1.40 with the Islanders, once in a while, they come up with a pretty good effort. And like you said the other night, I mean, that game was an under game against Toronto, and now they're playing, a lesser. I mean, if you compare New Jersey with Toronto, I mean, certainly Toronto is better offensively. So I don't have a problem with the Islanders plus $1.40 tonight. I think they you just get through playing Toronto, and then I think you kind of go backwards a little bit. And I think if you're the Islanders, you got to feel pretty good about your defensive effort against the Leafs. And, if you put in that kind of effort, certainly I think you're pretty confident that you might be able to shut down New Jersey, especially when you got 3 lines that can carry the puck pretty well. So $1.40 for me. I'm going to take a shot with the Islanders. I saw this team come into T-Mobile a couple weeks ago and absolutely play lights out. When these teams are engaged, they play a lot different. It doesn't reflect what they've done during their whole regular season. So I have no problem taking the plus price tonight. Not my favorite for sure, but I think there's some value in it as well. And there's too many moving parts for the Devils for me.
Yeah, and it's all fade the ceremony night, team night. There you go. That's never a lot of people gravitate to that and look to do that. And for the Islanders, it's all about are you mentally strong? Because if you're a mentally strong team, if you're mentally worth a shit, to be honest with you, you look at that Toronto game and you say, we played a damn good game. We're feeling good. We didn't win, but we played good. We know we played the right way. Let's do it again, and let's get the 2 points tonight. If you're weak and you got nothing going for yourself mentally and you're fragile, you're going to be dejected, and maybe you're going to mail it in and just make mistakes, head in the clouds type of effort tonight from the New York Islanders. So I'm very fascinated to see which one is it. Which one is it for the New York Islanders tonight? You can be strong and say, hey, we lost the game, but we played well enough. One of our better defensive games in a long time. We play that way again, we'll win. We're fine. Let's just get back at it, get back on the saddle, play that way again, and we'll have a better result, different result. Or are you going to let that loss gnaw away at you and you come out tonight and just lay an egg? Very interesting to see which one it is from this New York Islanders team. But Dana, with the price, I agree. From a price perspective, there's none to be had with New Jersey here. I said that earlier. This is not the price range I like New Jersey, and more than minus 150. They're still not a team with dominant enough goaltending, too. Let's keep that in mind. I mean, Keith Kincaid is okay at times, but is he really going to be a guy to get you over the hump? Well, he's been very up and down, and again, New Jersey, again, the other night losing to Minnesota. So, again, they can be beaten. See if the Islanders have another good effort in them tonight, catching a big plus price. Carolina, Detroit, 65-66. No line here in this game. You got Carolina off a thumping last night against the Detroit Red Wings, or against the Pittsburgh Penguins, rather, 6-1. Now playing this Detroit Red Wings team. Detroit's still an automatic fade for me right now. There's no, especially at home. Little Caesars Arena's got no home ice ambiance whatsoever for the Red Wings. It's not a great crowd. It's actually, Detroit's been weird. They didn't have great regular season crowds for their home games, even when the Red Wings were playing really good hockey years ago. And now it's been even worse, really, with the struggles that they've had. They lose to Buffalo in overtime at home the other night. I actually had a little shot of the Sabres in that game at a plus price. I just thought Detroit shouldn't be laying minus 150, 55 to anybody like they were in that game against Buffalo, and Buffalo gets them in overtime with a Marco Scandella buzzer beater in overtime with 0.2 seconds on the clock when that puck went in, beating the Detroit Red Wings. So Detroit, again, on a losing streak. They've lost every game this week. They lost to Toronto last Sunday, Nashville Tuesday. Okay, great teams. No shame in that, but that's the alarm bell loss. You lose to Buffalo at home, one of the worst teams in the league. Yeah, it tells me all I need to know about Detroit. They're another team selling off parts. Mike Green's injury on the blue line has not helped this team at all. They've missed him dearly on the back end as well. For the Red Wings, their offense has gone to sleep. Jimmy Howard, to me, is getting the start night in and night out, and he's not as good to me, at least in my opinion, as good as Peter Mrazek, who was recently traded away to the Philadelphia Flyers. So to me, I'll be honest, even on a back-to-back spot here, Carolina, I think they're the better of these two teams. Be looking to back them here in this game. Carolina Hurricanes off a bad performance last night against the Pittsburgh Penguins, but to be honest, it was a bad performance because they got outshot. They got the play taken to them, but it's Pittsburgh. I'm willing to forgive them a little bit for that. So I was against Carolina last night. I'll actually be looking to back them here tonight against the Detroit Red Wings because to me, there's nothing I see in Detroit right now that makes me want to run to the window and take them. Even if Darling gets the start, and I would think he would. If anyone watched that game last night, Cam Ward, after the 6th Pittsburgh goal went in the third period, he had enough. I mean, everybody in front of him was not playing well. I think Pittsburgh had close to, if not more than 40 shots in that game. Throws the stick. Actually ends up hitting Jeff Skinner. He ends up hitting him with the stick, and then he ends up throwing the stick right across the right towards center ice. I mean, he was livid, Cam Ward. So after that kind of meltdown and giving up 6 last night, you got to expect that Scott Darling is going to be in tonight. Cam Ward given a night off to rest, recompose himself mentally. After that little bit of a outburst that he had on the ice last night against Pittsburgh. So nevertheless, and Darling, it's not easy to trust him to get a win for you or get saves for you. But I'll still take my chances with, I think, the better team with a lot more to play for. Carolina is still in the hunt for the postseason as we speak. So Carolina, for me, is the side I'll be looking at. Alex B. Smith, you've got something in this game you're looking at. What are you looking at here?
Yes, I'm on the same deal with Carolina. These are two horrible teams, but you look at Carolina, like I said, they got their ass kicked last night, and that's something that usually tends to wake teams up on the second night of back-to-backs. They're playing a weaker team. Like I said, obviously, Detroit's nowhere near on the level of Pittsburgh. So now you've got a little bit more confidence going into the fact that you're playing a weaker team, a team that you should be able to beat, and you're getting out of the recent 4-game stretch of playing division teams. Like I said, this Metropolitan Division, it's so tightly wound that the pressure I feel for these teams playing against one another is a lot higher than when they get out of division or out of conference the rest of the way. And so we might see a bit more relaxed of a Carolina team for compared to other matchups that we see within their division as opposed to out of it. So those two things on the fact that he said Detroit just playing horribly at home, and in the chat, Kyle Honeysett mentioned a good point that the Red Wings have only scored more than 2 goals once in the last 13 home games. That's something that's very uncharacteristic of this Red Wings team. Like I said, talk about years past at the Joe Louis Arena team that did really well at home, and nowadays at the Pizza Box, it's not looking as fresh for Detroit. So I'm looking at Carolina here. Hopefully we can get a reasonable pick and price, maybe even find a plus price once this number comes out. But I think Carolina should be able to bounce back nicely here and get a win tonight in Detroit.
Yeah, exactly. The pizza's getting stale at Little Caesars Arena. If you're watching the Detroit Red Wings right now, if you're equating their performance to quality pizza, the pizza's garbage in that case. So, the Detroit Red Wings in some trouble right now. Carolina, Alex and I agree there. We're going to look toward the Hurricanes in a bounce back situation. And I like these teams even on a second night of back-to-back games that play after a bad loss. I mean, a lot of times it's just good to get right back on the ice the next night, wash away the stench of the bad performance the night before, see if Carolina can do that tonight against a very beatable team, in my opinion, right now, the Detroit Red Wings. We got Buffalo, Washington, 67-68. Washington minus 210, total 5.5 across the board. This right here is my take a shot with it underdog of the night right here. And I'm taking a shot with Buffalo. Not a best bet, obviously, but I'm taking a shot right now. Washington ain't playing well enough to be minus 210 against anyone right now. That's all there is to it. Found a way to lose the other night against Florida. As soon as something bad happened, they tied that game. Florida came on like gangbusters. You talk about teams that are mentally fragile right now. Washington is showing signs of that right now. Something bad happens in a game, and they fold. Let's not forget, Washington didn't just get beat last weekend by Chicago. They got annihilated. That's Chicago doing that. Chicago had lost 8 games in a row going into that game. They lose that game. They lose to Florida Thursday night. They lose to Detroit recently at home. The one game they have won recently was against this Buffalo team early in the week. It was that Monday afternoon game in Buffalo, and it was 3-2. And Buffalo, believe it or not, carried the play for extended stretches of that hockey game. So Washington, to me, is not giving you anything in terms of the degree of dominance that's required out of a minus 210 favorite right now. They're not. And Buffalo, say what you will, it's been a dismal season. Phil Housley's had a tough go. First year as a head coach, had injuries. Jack Eichel's missed time. The defense hasn't been good. You don't know what you're going to get from the Robin Leonard, Chad Johnson duo and net most nights. I understand all of that. But lately, what you're seeing from the Buffalo Sabres is at least an honest effort, a 60-minute effort that, hey, they do what they can. They roll the puck out on the ice, and Buffalo's at least giving you a good, solid effort, and at least being much more competitive the Sabres have in recent games. That's all I'm looking for here. If I can get this game 2-2 into the third period, I know Buffalo's got a chance. And all you're asking for with Buffalo in this price range here, plus 185, plus 180 to plus 185 pretty much is the consensus number here. All I'm asking for out of Buffalo is have a chance to win this game in the third period. Because right now, Washington in these tough environments, these close games, it's been a little bit of a grind for them. We saw it the other night against Florida. Buffalo's giving you that effort. And right now, there's enough warning signs with Washington, a penalty kill that's declined, a defensive team that's declined a little bit, a goaltending from Braden Holtby that's been very, average, ordinary as of late. There's enough warning signs here where I don't want Washington minus 210, and there's enough positive signs out of the Buffalo Sabres to warrant a flyer on them tonight, as far as I'm concerned, at plus 180, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a shot here. Buffalo Sabres plus 180. Plus 185 even at bookmaker/Chris. That is the side I'll be taking a shot with. I think Buffalo is indeed live in this game tonight. Total 5.5. I want to mention the total because this is Andrew's lone other play that he mentioned. He's on the Flyers in the under against Ottawa. His other play is in this game. He's looking over 5.5. Buffalo and Washington here. I don't argue with it. It's not one of my favorite totals, but I could see it. I mean, we talked about Washington. Defensively, it's not been good, but offensively as well, they've had a little hot and cold stretch lately. I mean, you look at Washington last few games, they've only scored 6 goals in their last 3 games combined. That's nothing to write home about. So, but Buffalo obviously has the chance to maybe give up a couple, which could help the Washington cause. But I think Buffalo, again, seeing this team perk up a little bit, being able to score a little bit more lately themselves as well. So could get there, but Andrew likes the over 5.5 in this game. And I'm going to take a shot, like I said, with Buffalo. I just don't think Washington's playing well enough right now to command that kind of price. We've got Boston, Toronto, arguably one of the better games on the slate tonight. Winnipeg, Dallas is pretty good, but this is right up there. Boston, Toronto, no line on this game. Obviously, it's funny. Toronto's not playing back-to-back, but this is all Austin Matthews related. That's the big news coming into this game, that he's going to be out for 1 to 2 weeks after getting being victimized by a sandwich hit against the New York Islanders in Toronto's last game. That's going to hurt, no question about that. But before we go crazy about, what's the Leafs going to do without Austin Matthews? 6-4. What is that? That's the record without Austin Matthews this season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So winning record for Toronto without Austin Matthews. And this is a little bit of a revenge situation as well for the Leafs after Boston beat them in a very good performance by the Bruins that night in Boston just a couple of weeks ago. Took care of business against Toronto. For Boston, hasn't been pretty this week. It's been, do what it takes to win. They haven't dominated by any stretch this week, beating Calgary in overtime, coming back to beat Edmonton the other night after a slow start with Anton Udobin, but they're still finding ways to win. They're still overall playing very good hockey. I think Don Sweeney is going to look to add something for this team at the trade deadline. It's funny, Ryan McDonough, huge trade rumors with him right now, New York Rangers defenseman. All the teams in the Atlantic Division are in on the discussions on Ryan McDonough right now. The Bruins are in on them, the Lightning are in on them, and the Leafs are in on them. So it's funny. You got all these 3 teams at the top of the Atlantic Division, all at least kicking the tires on Ryan McDonough prior to Monday's trade deadline. Will any of them land him? Who knows? But they're all interested in this game. I'm interested to see where the price is in this game. You got Boston in a weird situation here where they were in Vancouver, they were in Calgary, they were in Edmonton. Now they're going out to the back east now, taking on this Toronto team. And I'm warning you, and I know the easy play, is is to look Boston here. I understand that. Boston's playing great. They've already beaten Toronto in the most recent meeting. No Austin Matthews. What are the Leafs going to do? Well, again, the Leafs do still have a winning record without Matthews. And number two, oftentimes what do we see? Star player out. First game with the star player out. What happens? Everybody raises their game tenfold, and the team overcomes it. We've seen it time and time again. We see it in the NBA all the time. We see it in the NHL quite a bit. This is a pull your bootstraps up, everybody on this Leaf team, and go out there and get the job done. Usually you see that in the very first game. Doesn't always sustain itself for the second and third and fourth game without that star player. But for that first game, you usually get everybody just pulling up their bootstraps a little bit more and everybody just doing a little bit more to help the cause. So I'm actually leaning Toronto a little bit here in this game. It's not the greatest situation for Boston, but again, we'll see where the price is on this hockey game. It's a good game. It's going to be a really good game. I think there's going to be a little bit of an intensity, a little bit of a nasty flair to it, if you ask me as well, because I think Toronto's going to bring it with first game without Matthews. You know, Boston's going to bring it. It's a division rival. It's big-time stakes. We're talking about second in the division, home ice advantage in the opening round of the playoffs. It's going to be decided between these two teams, so it's a great hockey game, good one. But I've got a little lean to Toronto here in this spot, and they've been good at home. I think 8 wins in a row at home, 8 straight home wins for Toronto. They're on a good home winning streak right now at the Air Canada Centre. So, again, we'll see where that price – not easy to case right now. I understand that to go against Boston. They're playing very good. They're finding ways to win, but scheduling spot's not the greatest for them. I just happen to think Toronto does step it up a little bit. First game without their big gun, Austin Matthews, in the lineup. And I like the lineup adjustments Babcock's made for this game. Nylander's going to be on the top line as the center. They're going to move Kasperi Kapanen up to the third line with Bozak and Van Riemsdyk, which is good because Kasperi Kapanen's he skates too well and he's too much of an offensive threat to be stuck on a fourth line. So it's finally good to be seeing him elevated a little bit. Obviously, the Matthews injury is what's caused it, but it's good to see him finally playing on a top 3-line role instead of buried on the fourth line, because I think there's too much talent for him to be on that kind of forward line, backed up on the fourth line. We got Anaheim, Arizona, 71-72. Anaheim minus 150 to minus 155 in this game. Total 5.5 shaded to the under here across the board. Arizona laying an egg the other night against Calgary. Not very good performance from them. We'll see if they can bounce back, but not easy to go against Anaheim right now. The team's rolling. Team's in a weird scheduling situation here because they were on a road trip, long one, returned home the other night and took care of business beating the Dallas Stars. Now they're going back on the road again. A little bit of a weird dynamic there. Lots of travel involved. But again, Anaheim to Arizona is not terrible. I don't have much on this game, to be honest. I don't want to go against Anaheim. Playing too good. Even without Gibson, we saw Miller play absolutely outstanding in the shutout win against Dallas the other night. So, you know, Ryan Miller is a veteran goalie. He's capable. He can do the job in the short term. And I don't know. If you're Anaheim, you're starting to get really concerned and really frustrated that John Gibson seems like he can't go more than 10 starts now without getting hurt again. I mean, that's starting to become a little bit of a problem for them, especially when you consider they picked John Gibson over Frederik Andersen, you know, a couple of years ago. And they said, John Gibson's a little bit younger, maybe a little bit more athletic. We're going to make him our number one guy because he had 2 number ones, 2 guys good enough talent-wise to be number one. They decided we're going to give Gibson that role. We can't keep both guys, not with the salary cap implications. I don't know. Is that starting to look like a little bit of regret, buyer's remorse a little bit maybe for the Anaheim Ducks? I mean, especially when you're seeing the season that Freddie Anderson's putting together in Toronto. But nevertheless, you know, Gibson, when he is healthy, he is a very, very good goaltender. But that's the whole issue. It's been a hard time getting a full season and getting them to stay on the ice for extended periods of time. And we're seeing that hurt this Anaheim team a little bit in between the pipes. But the thing that does ease their cause, at least, is Ryan Miller's been able to come in there and get the job done. And again, from a forward perspective, this is as healthy a team as they've been all season, Anaheim, which is good to see. Defensively, of course, they had injuries early on in the season. Most of them are healthy as well, and that's why they're peaking at the right time. Anaheim playing well. So for me, not much on this game. Maybe under if Ronta's in net, because I think you're seeing Anaheim really going to dig into that more defensive-minded team that they usually have been under Randy Carlyle. So a lean to the under here, 5.5. And we wrap it up with our last game, Edmonton, LA, 73-74. LA minus 145, home favorite, total 5.5, shaded to the under in this hockey game here. I don't normally bet LA King games on or against them. I'm going to make an exception here. I'll actually lay the price here with Los Angeles here. It's just below my cutoff here, minus 145 in this game. I don't trust Edmonton to win 2 in a row, period. That's really the bottom line when it comes down to it. When's the last time the Oilers have been able to string multiple wins together? It's been a while. And LA can't be happy losing to Dallas at home the other night. And this is a team that needs wins. It's still a team that's played pretty well, but we talked about that before the show. You know, LA Kings red hot going into that game against Dallas, but a negative spot. First game home off that road trip, and it sort of bit them. They just didn't have that same jump a little bit at times against that Dallas Stars team. I think you get that off the loss now tonight against Edmonton, a beatable team. They did play well against Colorado at home, 3-2 win the other night. Not going to take that away from the Edmonton Oilers. But how is it that Edmonton is 46-29 in shots, or something along those lines in that game against Colorado, and they still are life and death to win the game? 3-2 in overtime. That tells you Edmonton needs to play letter perfect to have a chance to win a game right now. They played pretty much close to that Thursday night. I'm not convinced they can play close to that tonight. Now going on the road, now going up against a much superior defensive team than what Colorado is. It's going to be a struggle here, I think, for the Edmonton Oilers. I like the situation here for LA, a little bit of a bounce back. Still won all but one game, the LA Kings, since Dion Phaneuf's been in the lineup as well, since they got him in that trade from the Ottawa Senators. So I like the situation here for LA to get back on track with a victory. LA minus 145, just slightly below my 150 cutoff point, but slow enough that I'll go ahead with the Kings here at $1.45. Take care of business at home. All right, it's best bets time for the Saturday card to wrap up the show. I'll start with Andrew's. Andrew passed along his best bet. It's that over in the Buffalo-Washington game. Buffalo-Washington over 5.5. That's the best bet for Andrew McGinnis. Dana Lane, let's hear it. Your best bet for Saturday.
I think the Philadelphia Flyers are going to win fairly easily today. I think you're going to get at least a there's no way that I want anything to do with the Senators. Again, some moving parts going on there. I think Philadelphia has to smell some blood in the water. This is a game that they have to win. If they don't win games like this and they find themselves on the outside of the playoffs, they will look back and kick themselves over this. I think you're going to get a focused effort from Philly today. And they'll kind of turn that success against Ottawa in the past around and wins this game easy today.
All right, Philadelphia, best bet for Dana. Alex B. Smith, what do you got for us? Best bet for Saturday.
Well, great minds think alike. I'm going with the Philadelphia Flyers as well for my best bet today. One note that I didn't mention earlier when we were talking about this game was Philadelphia hasn't allowed a power play goal in 7 straight contests. Before Thursday, where they only had 2 penalties, they had 3 straight games where they didn't take a single penalty. You got a team that's not only playing well offensively, getting some decent goaltending, but they're not taking a whole lot of penalties. They're playing good, clean hockey right now against the Ottawa team that looks to be an absolute shit show. Probably going to get any worse between now and Monday. I'm going with laying the price with the Flyers tonight, or this afternoon, rather.
Wow, Philadelphia for Alex. And I hate to do this, but because I like to give everybody a little bit of a different best bet, but I'd be lying if I gave something else out as a best bet. This is clearly, to me, what stands out on this entire card. I'm right on. It's going to be a clean sweep. I like to be original, give someone else a different best bet. I can't. I mean, to me, this is clearly the best play on this board today. I'm also going to give it Philadelphia Flyers here to take care of business against the Ottawa Senators. Minus 135, best price available. Again, it's a more than reasonable price. It's a Philly team that's flying. It's confident. They got Mrazek there now. Everybody's pumped up. Can't wait to play hockey right now. Feeling good. And Ottawa's not only playing poorly, but half of these guys are wondering if they're still going to be in the Canada's capital in a couple of days from now after the trade deadline. It's not a good bet on situation off the ice or in their heads. Not a good bet on situation on the ice because they're not playing good, especially in their own zone. So no problem at all going on Philadelphia as well. Minus 135 against Ottawa. That'll be my best bet as well. for the Saturday card. And that's going to wrap up the show and the week. It's been another good week of shows. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Let me just take a quick look. How many viewers do we have here for this show right now? 137 watching. That's awesome.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Good viewership on this Saturday. We appreciate that. We really do. Thanks for tuning in. Great to see everyone. Great to see all the conversation in the chat. We appreciate that as well. Again, check out sportsbookreview.com every day for all the latest sports betting information, live odds, sportsbook rating guide, free picks and free articles daily, of which Dana contributes to that with NHL articles. And last I checked, he's doing pretty good with them. So you might want to check those out on a daily basis, sportsbookreview.com, all the latest to help you as a sports bettor. We will be back on Tuesday for our next edition of the NHL Ice Guys, Tuesday, 9 a.m. For Alex and for Dana. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the Saturday card. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again on Tuesday.